Chapter 6691. After the doctor called the police. Before the police arrived, another white patient was sent in with the same symptoms as the previous ones. Soon, 3 police cars rushed to the emergency center of the People's Hospital. The leading police officer immediately consulted the director of the emergency center. The director held his forehead and sighed. "It's really a ghost. Several foreign friends were sent here in one night. Without exception, they all overdosed on sildenafil. One of them is still in danger." The police officer asked in surprise. "Sildenafil, is that Viagra?" "Yes." The director nodded and said, "Yes, it is what we commonly call Viagra. The side effects of this medicine are actually not very large. Anyone who takes this medicine and has strong side effects has probably taken too much." The police officer said embarrassedly, "Doctor, these people have taken too much Viagra. It's not convenient for us police to intervene, right? If this gets out, it seems that our Ores Hill police are still in charge of the issue of foreign friends taking medicine. Which is not a good influence." The director said, "Although I am afraid that these people are doing something improper. It is said that they had a lot of fun. TV often talks about this hip-hop singers party, and that American tycoon's private island. I'm afraid that they will do some shameless things in our place and bring discredit to us. What should we do?" "This?" The police officer was also a little hesitant for a moment. They generally don't like to take over foreign-related issues. Such matters always involve a lot of things. Sometimes the embassy is also involved. But if it is really enough to be a public security, or even criminal case, it is against the rules to ignore it." Helplessly, he said, "How about this? Let's verify his identity first. See where they live in Ores Hill. And see if they are from the same place. Then, how are the patients in good condition here? Can we ask a few simple questions?" The director said, "The few who have already had their gastric lavages are fine. They just took too much medicine and have high blood pressure. They may still feel a little uncomfortable, but they should be able to accept questioning." The police officer said, "How about this? Are there any empty wards?" "Yes." The director said, "There are no other patients in the emergency center tonight except them." "Okay." The police officer said, "Then please help prepare 2 wards. Arrange the 2 people in first, and we will ask them separately." "No problem." At this time, Hank had just finished gastric lavage. And the doctor gave him some blood pressure-lowering drugs. And his condition improved slightly. At this time, 2 nurses pushed his bed out of the emergency room and prepared to push it to one of the wards. At this time, he, like everyone else, was in the largest room in the emergency center. This room had more than a dozen beds specifically used for emergency treatment. There were no separate compartments. Each bed was separated by a privacy curtain. All patients who were sent for emergency treatment and temporarily out of danger would be placed here first. This would also make it convenient for the doctors in the emergency center to check their conditions at any time. However, these people did not know what happened to each other. Hank was pushed out at this time. And when he passed those compartments, he suddenly realized that the people lying in each of these compartments were all his comrades. He saw that one of them also saw him, and their eyes met, so he quickly asked, "Angel, what's wrong with you?" Angel said depressed and weakly, "Damn it, Hank. I might be F-caking impotent. I took a handful of sildenafil tablets and they didn't work. I fainted and was sent here without knowing it. I just opened my eyes 3 minutes ago." Chapter 6692. Then he asked again, "What about you, Hank? What's wrong with you?" Hank said in surprise and anger, "Sure T, I'm the same as you. I really saw a ghost today." The nurse spoke good English. When she heard them talking, she reminded them. Both of you are not stable yet, so talk less. Hank asked her, Nurse, where are you sending me? The nurse said, We are sending you to a separate ward. Hank asked in surprise, Am I not out of danger yet? The nurse said, You should ask the doctor. It's no use asking me. As she spoke, Hank was pushed into a separate ward nearby. Just as the nurse settled him down, two uniformed policemen came in. One of them looked at him and said, Hello, I'm an officer from the Oris Hill Police. I need to confirm why you were sent to the hospital for emergency treatment because of an overdose of sildenafil. Hank said depressedly, Why did I overdose? It's because I ate a lot. The police asked again. Then why did you need to take so much sildenafil? Hank was even more depressed. Because I can't get it hard. The police sighed in his heart. These foreigners are really honest. So, he reminded them vaguely. Do you know that in our country, group F0 is a crime? Hank had a sad face, but I didn't do group fornication. I said I couldn't get it hard. I was powerless. Officer, are you deliberately mocking me by asking this? The police were a little embarrassed by what he said. After asking these questions, it seemed that it was indeed his own problem. So, the policeman coughed twice and then asked, Are those other guys who overdosed on sildenafil your friends? Hank nodded, My friends. The policeman asked again. Did you take sildenafil together? No. Hank was afraid of being accused of gathering for F0 So he quickly said, We came to China in a hurry and didn't book a room in the same hotel. We stayed in several hotels separately. And I was not with them when I took sildenafil. I don't know why they were sent here. The policeman said, The information we have received from the doctor is that the others are like you. They all overdosed on sildenafil and were sent for emergency treatment. One of them is not out of danger yet. After the policeman finished speaking, he asked in confusion. Excuse me, do all of you suffer from erectile dysfunction? Hank said dejectedly, Impossible, I didn't have such a problem before tonight. It's nothing more than not being able to last long enough, and not being strong enough. It's hard, so I need some drugs to help. But today it's really strange. No matter how many drugs I took, it didn't work. The police thought to themselves. What kind of people are these? He said, We came to ask you to confirm whether you have any group F0 and also to confirm whether someone poisoned you for the collective drug overdose. Since you all took it by yourselves, and you didn't actually engage in group F0 then we won't interfere too much. If you need any help, you can ask your embassy. If necessary, we can also contact them on your behalf. Hank was shocked. How could he inform the embassy of such a shameful thing? If some bad-mouthed guy spread the news back to China, he would lose face. So he hurriedly said, No, we are almost recovered and will be discharged from the hospital. And we plan to return to the United States today. That's good. The police also breathed a sigh of relief and said, Okay, we won't bother you anymore. You have a good rest and recover quickly. After the police finished speaking, he turned and left. Hank had countless reasons bothering him. He thought to himself, when we were playing together, we all seemed very brave. How come we all became impotent all of a sudden? This is too abnormal, isn't it? Chapter 66-93. The emergency treatment lasted until the dawn of the next day. The one whose heart stopped beating was finally saved. The others were also in much more stable conditions. The doctor originally wanted these people to stay for observation. But they themselves did not take it seriously. For them, drug overdoses were not the first or second time. Even those contraband drugs, overdoses were commonplace. So Hank and the others went through the discharge procedures early in the morning. Although the person who was rescued was still a little weak, he insisted on being discharged. Anyway, his life was no longer in danger. For them, staying in the hospital was meaningless, and it would only increase the risk of being exposed. After a group of people left the hospital, Hank said to them, "Do you feel that there is something strange about this matter?" "Strange?" One of them asked him, "You mean? Is it strange that so many of us suddenly became impotent at the same time?" Hank asked back, "Isn't it strange?" "Strange." The man nodded and smacked his lips and said, "I suspect that Charlie poisoned us yesterday. Otherwise, there is no reason why so many of us would become impotent." At the same time, after returning from dinner, Hank suddenly frowned, squinted his eyes, and said seriously, "I think what you said makes sense. There is indeed something wrong with that guy named Charlie." Someone said, "Why don't we call the police quickly? He should at least be sentenced to jail, right?" "Call the police?" Hank asked back in a cold voice. "Do you have any evidence? If we are really poisoned, the doctor would have helped us find out yesterday. Do you think that when so many people suddenly overdosed on drugs and went to the hospital, they wouldn't do a blood test first? If there is really a problem, they would have notified the police long ago." Hank said, "If we call the police now, the final result may be that the matter will not be found out, and we will expose ourselves instead. If our group is exposed to be collectively impotent in China and admitted to the hospital due to an overdose of sildenafil, will you still have the face to go back to the United States? What should we do then?" Someone couldn't hold it anymore and said immediately, "What if we all become impotent in the future? It will be useless even if I take medicine, as if it were food. It's over now." Hank suddenly came to his senses and blurted out, "Do you remember what Wade said at the dinner table yesterday? He said that if we go back on our word, 100 million will become 1 billion today. He must have known that we would encounter such a problem. So we must have been manipulated by him. You all know that there was a kind of criminal law called chemical castration in the past, right? What if he castrated us chemically?" Angelo said, "I don't believe that Wade is so powerful. The Chinese people don't eat separately. Everyone eats from the same plate and drinks from the same bottle. How could he poison us? In my opinion, we should go back to the United States and find the best doctor in the US to help us check what the problem is." Hank said coldly, "If we miss this opportunity, we can't get cured when we return to the United States. You have made so much money. Are you willing to be impotent for the rest of your life?" Angelo asked him, "Hank, what do you think?" Hank said, "Since Mr. Wade said that there will be a dinner party tonight, and asked us to find Steve to sign up if we go, he must know that we have to go back and beg him. In this case, I think we should go again tonight. $1 billion. Chapter 6694. The man blurted out, "Mr. Wade asked us to take out $1 billion to set up a fund to assassinate people like us. Who the hell would agree to this?" Hank said, "Let's go tonight to see what the situation is and confirm whether it is really related to Mr. Wade. Then we can think of other countermeasures. As for the money, we may not have to pay." The other people pondered for a moment and nodded slightly. It is better to believe it than not to believe it. If they don't go to the restaurant tonight to observe the specific situation, they will miss this opportunity and there will be no regrets. So, everyone nominated Hank as a representative and contacted Steve. Steve hated these idiots. He thought everyone would give him the heir of the Rothschild family. Some face, but he didn't expect that these old dogs would ignore their future for their own perverted needs. But the problem is that as the second in command of the Rothschild family, The threat he can bring to these people is all in the business field. Once the other party holds the mentality of, I don't care how much money I make in the future. Anyway, the money I make now is enough to spend. Then his advantage will be gone. He suddenly received a call from Hank early in the morning. He was still indignant and yelled, "Why the hell are you calling me?" Hank asked awkwardly, "Mr. Rothschild, I want to ask. If we go to the dinner tonight, will Mr. Wade from yesterday show up too?" Steve said coldly, "I'm not sure, how come you perverts regret it?" Hank was also a little angry and asked, "Mr. Rothschild, we came to China for your sake. But you set up a Hongmen banquet for us, and that Mr. Wade also poisoned us. Isn't this a bit too much? You can't just. You bully us just because we are not as well off as you." Steve cursed, "Bulldollar hit. When did Mr. Wade poison you?" Hank risked his life and said directly, "Mr. Rothschild, I might as well tell you directly that all of us were inexplicably impotent last night. I took a lot of sildenafil and was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment overnight. Zoe's heart stopped beating and he was just rescued before dawn. Do you dare to say that these have nothing to do with the surname Wade?" Steve was a little nervous. He quickly lowered his head to look between his legs. And subconsciously fiddled twice, fearing that he had also been drugged by Charlie. Although he didn't know what Charlie's specific abilities were, he knew that Charlie must have a lot of magical pills. He could even take out the pills that could make people 10 or 20 years younger. So it was probably no problem for him to make a pill that could make people impotent. Fortunately, he didn't seem to have encountered such a problem. So he sneered, "You perverts deserve it. Mr. Wade gave you a chance yesterday. He asked you to mend your ways and live a normal S3 life. But you perverts didn't want to. I think Matt took you to play too much on the island before. And now you can't even play anymore. Are you satisfied?" Hank was extremely depressed and said, "Mr. Rothschild, do you think it's fun to say such sarcastic words now? We were all harmed by you. You called us here. Don't you believe that we will spread the news?" Steve smiled and said, "Hurry up and spread it. Contact BBC and CNN now. If that doesn't work, I can help you contact them. Sure, to be honest, I can't wait for you to make this public. If you make it public, people won't misunderstand me anymore. They used to suspect that I had something to do with you idiots. As long as I make this public, I will be completely cleared of suspicion and become a national hero of America." Hank was startled, thinking, "Damn, what Steve said makes sense. We are already rats crossing the street, but the evidence has not been fully exposed yet. If I take the initiative to tell the media that Steve Rothschild teamed up with the Chinese to trick us into China and do chemical castration, I'm afraid the whole of America will regard him as a national hero. By then, those idiots in Hollywood might as well flatter and make a movie based on this story. The Rothschild family originally has a strong influence in Hollywood. When the Oscars are announced, and this movie sweeps 7 or 8 awards, won't the lives be ruined?" Chapter 6695. When the private islands and wrapper parties became popular all over the world, almost all celebrities were suspected by the American people. This naturally included the Rothschild family. However, the Rothschild family never responded to this gossip, so people could only speculate. Naturally, Hank didn't want to cause trouble for himself and save face for Steve. So he could only smile and said, "Mr. Rothschild, don't be angry with us. We are just a bunch of playboys with no ambitions who have been lying down for a long time. Compared with you, Mr. Rothschild, we are really insignificant." Steve said disdainfully, "I advise you to stop talking nonsense. If you still want to go to Classic Mansion tonight, You should pay for 2 days of meals first. 20 million per person. Whoever comes will pay. I will ask someone to give you a collection account, and you can transfer the money to it. As for how you talked with Mr. Wade at the dinner table today, that's your business, I won't ask. Okay. Hank agreed immediately. If he really asked him to pay $1 billion now, he would definitely not be happy. He could consider paying 20 million first to see what happens. After hanging up the phone with many thanks, Hank immediately cursed with a dark face. I really don't understand why the heir of the Rothschild family would get together with a Chinese and set up a justice fund. Is this a disease? Anglo asked him, what should we say now? Hank said, everyone gives 20 million first. And see what that Charlie says at the dinner table in the evening. Doesn't he just want money? If he can make us back to normal. It doesn't matter if we give him more. One person said, he wants us not to be too abnormal. Isn't this a bit too broad? Hank waved his hand and said, don't think so much now. And talk about it when we meet in the evening. Before noon, each of these people transferred $20 million to Orville's account. According to Charlie's idea, this money was used by Orville to develop his Classic Mansion. The arrival of this money means that these people will come to Classic Mansion for a banquet in the evening. So Charlie called Tawana and said with a smile, Tawana, after the performance tonight, remember to come to Classic Mansion. Those people wanted to celebrate for you yesterday. Tawana didn't know what happened to those people yesterday, and asked in surprise, Mr. Wade, didn't those people reject your proposal yesterday? Why are they coming again today? Charlie smiled slightly and said, you will know when you go tonight. Tawana said, Mr. Wade, Trevor is leaving tonight. And he may not be able to go to Classic Mansion to attend the dinner. Okay. Charlie didn't take it seriously. Whether Trevor went or not had no effect on the dinner tonight. In the afternoon, Claire, who had watched the concert yesterday and was still unsatisfied, squeezed out time to come to the performance again. She knew that Charlie would be at the scene these days. So she thought about coming to watch the performance with her husband and going home together after the performance. This feeling was also good. Today's concert was just like yesterday's, and the seats were still full. With yesterday's practical experience, all the staff cooperated more tacitly today. The scene was orderly, and the performance effect was still maintained at a very high level. After the performance, Charlie sent Claire home before going to Classic Mansion again.